So today the topic is short-term forecasting of solar irradiance. Before coming to this topic, first is a brief overview on microgrid and how or where in a microgrid this forecasting will come, that we'll discuss, and what are the main challenges or problems associated with microgrid. Out of these problems, forecasting is one of them. After that, I'll discuss forecasting. Then forecasting, I have divided this forecasting into two categories. One is model based forecasting, another is sky image based forecasting. So what are the advantages, disadvantages, that we'll discuss. So coming to brief overview on microgrid. This is a microgrid. Small microgrid means having only PV, no other sources taken here, only PV taken and battery also taken, but no wind or other renewable sources taken. So here PV is connected for both for PV here for UPQC, PV fed UPQC used, and also for forecasting of solar irradiance, PV forecasting will do. And another is energy management system for economic dispatch. So energy management problem is there in a microgrid. Then regarding hybrid energy storage system, in this microgrid, hybrid energy storage system means battery with SST interface, means solid state transformer interface. And next is regarding load side. Load side, there is demand response management. Also supply side supply management is there. So basically the problems are, one is forecasting of solar irradiance, another is energy management, another one is power quality improvement using UPQC, Unified Power Quality Conditioner. Another is regarding charge and discharge command to hybrid energy storage system. Another one is regarding demand response management. That in next one is source side management, means source side management is there, demand side management is there. So many problems are there, but today I will discuss only one of the problems, that is forecasting of solar irradiance. So basically regarding these problems, first one is intelligent generation control based on forecasting and load management. We know that solar energy is intermittent and variable in nature. So that's why to maintain the stability, that is one of the challenge. So method of solar forecasting comes into picture. Online intelligent generation control will be developed that will ramp up when there is a shortage and provide or store excess energy in hybrid energy storage system. Means this is generally this is an intelligent generation control, but before that forecasting is there. Then another problem is UPQC for power quality improvement. Since in a microgrid so many renewable energy are integrated and that involves power electronics interface, so there is requirement of power quality improvement. So UPQC is one of the best solution or best candidate for this power quality improvement because it can handle both current and voltage quality issue. So these are the two problems. Third problem is the adaptive demand response management, means how to manage the demand, means to bring down the cost of electricity by reducing the peak load and on shifting the peak hour demand to off peak hour. Means if you are using your washing machine or any device in the peak hour, then you have to pay more, then you can sacrifice your comfort by shifting it to off peak hour. So that is called demand side management. And also we propose a distributed energy scheduling, means when to use which equipment to use, that is energy scheduling problem. Next one comes the development of advanced hybrid energy storage system with SST, that is solid state transfer interface. Means here there is more control on the isolation, bidirectional power flow and charge and discharge control. That's why instead of general transformer, solid state transformer use. Next problem is the optimal energy scheduling, energy generation scheduling in microgrid with uncertainty. We know that when we are talking about the microgrid with so many renewable energy sources, so there is uncertainty. So in order to tackle this issue, for randomness of demand and renewable energy generation, suitable uncertainty model is to be developed so that we can take into account the uncertainty issues. That is suitable uncertainty model. Then a robust optimization technique to be developed to obtain the optimal energy scheduling. After that, energy scheduling you have to do. So these are the different problems. First one is the forecasting and load management. Second one is regarding power quality improvement. Third one is regarding adaptive demand response management. Fourth one is regarding the hybridized storage system with SST interface, that development strategy. And fifth one is optimal energy generation scheduling in microgrid with uncertainty. So these are the basically different problems associated with microgrid. So in order to increase the efficiency performance of the microgrid, you have to take into account all these problems. So out of all these problems, one of the problem is the forecasting that I will discuss today. So now people are more concerned about the environmental impact of generating electricity using conventional fossil fuels. Because due to the increasing rate of climate change and global warming, people are nowadays more concerned regarding what are the environmental impact if you will go for this type of generation. So when people talk about this thing, then renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, hydroelectric, biomass, so these are the greenery solution to generate electricity. But only main disadvantage on this thing, renewable energy, is the uncertainty. So far as solar PV generation is concerned, uncertainty of solar PV generation results in the requirement of large energy storage device for regulating the power output. Again, it involves more cost. Energy storage device means cost involvement is there. So how the solar irradiance changes? Generally, change in solar irradiance is due to the cloud covering the sunlight. So when cloud covers the sunlight, then power output of solar PV changes or drop drastically, which affects both frequency and voltage, two main parameters of power system. But this issue, energy storage alone, might not be possible to feed the electricity grid and require the ancillary services. So in order to tackle this situation, energy storage is one of the solutions, but it might not be possible to feed electricity grid. It requires some ancillary services. So there is requirement of precise solar irradiance forecasting so that we can predict the solar irradiance beforehand, and the operators will be able to take initiative or preventive measure in their scheduling, dispatching, and regulation of power. So for stability, reliability, so operators can take preventive measure if they know what is the solar irradiance in the next hour ahead or minutes ahead. So that's why there is requirement of solar irradiance forecasting. So first I will discuss solar irradiance forecasting using model based, then I'll switch over to image based. So for model based forecasting, monthly average of daily global solar insolation data are normally available for several locations in a year, in a region. Actually, from the meteorological department side, so you can find out that monthly average of, for a region, what is the monthly average of daily global solar insolation? Means this area monthly average is this much. You can find out this data from meteorological department. So in order to get more accuracy, data should be collected such that it covers a large area of latitude. So that a large area it will cover, if you think of India, then data should cover from all the region, north, west, north, south, east, west, middle, all the region you have to cover the data. These data are then reduced to monthly average daily clearness index KT by taking the global solar radiation to the calculated extraterrestrial horizontal insolation. Means you collect data that is global solar insolation, that data divided by that extraterrestrial horizontal insolation, that will give you the KT. What is extraterrestrial horizontal insolation? Extraterrestrial horizontal insolation at a given place is the insolation on a horizontal surface without the atmospheric effect. So from the model you have to find out what is the extraterrestrial horizontal insolation. So the data, whatever you will find out, that is monthly average global solar insolation data divided by this one will give you KT. That is clearness index KT. Then how to model KT, that we'll discuss. Then extraterrestrial horizontal insolation is a function of latitude and day of the year only using this equation. So this equation will give you H0, that is extraterrestrial horizontal insolation in kilowatt hour per meter square. Means for a particular day, you can find out what is the for a particular place, for a particular day, you can find out what is the extraterrestrial horizontal insolation. So if you will get this monthly average data, this global solar insolation data from the site divided by this one, that will give you KT. In this way, you can find out that clearness index KT. Now coming to finding out this extraterrestrial horizontal insolation, that is H0. So for finding out H0, this I0 is required and phi, delta and WSR are required. So what are these parameters? I0 is the extraterrestrial irradiance, means without atmospheric effect. This is the extraterrestrial irradiance in kilowatt per meter square. It is related with this day of the year and ISC, that is solar constant. Solar constant generally taken this value. This is the rate at which energy reaches the earth surface from the sun. So for a particular day of the year, putting this n value means if January 1st, you can take day of the year as 1, n equal to 1. For December 31st, you can take n equal to 365. And phi is the latitude of the location in degree. So using n ISC, you can find out I0. And phi is the latitude of the location in degree, means which place you are finding out, that latitude. Then next is delta, that is the declination angle in degree. That is, what is solar declination angle? Declination angle actually varies seasonally due to tilt of earth on own axis of rotation and rotation of the earth around sun. That's why the delta value varies from season to season. So delta value on particular day, what is the delta value? You can find out from this expression, and you put the day number, you can find out delta. Then another parameter is omega SR, that is hour angle at sunrise. Hour angle at sunrise is also required in this model, that is H0 calculation. So what is that? Hour angle generally this is the measurement of time with respect to that angle. So that means at solar noon, the hour angle is treated as 0 degree, and before solar noon expressed as negative, and after solar noon expressed as positive. For example, at 10:30 a.m., the hour angle is minus 22.5. How? Because 15 degree per hour times 1.5 hour before noon. Means 10:30 means 1.5 hour before noon. If noon is taken as 0, so before means minus, and 15 degree per hour taken. So for 1.5 hour, so 15 plus 7.5, that is 22.5. So our angle is minus 22.5. In this way, find out our angle. So our angle at sunrise formula is this one, where phi is the latitude and delta is the declination angle. So knowing this omega SR, knowing delta, and knowing this I0 and putting here, you can find out this H0. That will give you extraterrestrial horizontal insolation in kilowatt hour per meter square. In this way, using this model, you can find out what is H0 of a particular location of a particular day. So after finding out this H0, we have to find out what is the KT. So in this calculation, extraterrestrial horizontal insolation is a function of latitude and day of the year, that is phi and n. It can be calculated for any location and for any day. So here in this calculation, we have not taken into account atmospheric effects. So atmospheric effect at a place on the insolation is determined by clearness index KT. Clearness index KT is responsible for atmospheric effect at a place. So now how to find out this KT? KT is a clearness index, which is a stochastic parameter. It depends on time of the year, climatic conditions, season and geographical location. So in order to include the atmospheric effect on the insolation at a given place, KT model is required. So now what we have done now, for a particular place, for a particular day, we'll be able to calculate H0. So after finding out H0, we can find out that global horizontal insolation from the meteorological department data. So that data divided by this H0 will give you KT. So for modeling the clearness index, the data on the insolation on a horizontal surface over a period of time covering all the season climatic conditions for a few locations are to be measured. This data are to be collected. Based on the calculated value of extraterrestrial horizontal insolation for location and the measured global insolation, means global insolation you have to find out or measured from the meteorological data divided by H0 will give you KT. Then after finding out KT, you plot KT versus day. A plot of KT versus day of the year indicate that variation of KT over a period of year is a periodic function. Then Fourier series are considered as an appropriate core fitting technique to model KT. So that means up to this, first you have to measure that global, you have to find out global horizontal insolation from the meteorological department data, and for a particular day and for a particular region or for a particular place, you have to find out H0. Then that data, global horizontal insolation divided by H0 will give you KT. In this way, you find out so many KT and you plot KT versus day of the year that indicates variation of KT. Then Fourier series can be considered as an appropriate core fitting technique to model that KT. So here, this is the representation how KT modeling done. That is KT equals to this function of XWT. W is the total precipitable water vapor in gram per centimeter square. It has effect on solar irradiance. And the T is this is 2 pi by 365 n minus 80, where n is the day number. And X is 5 minus 35. This 35 is offset taken for this Indian region. So this Fxwt is modeled like this: A1 plus A2 sin t, A3 plus sin 2t, in this way up to A7 cos 3t. This is the model of F. Now from this model, the unknowns mean this is a function of basically t. Again, t is a function of n. So our M is means A1, A2 up to A7 functions of phi and W, functions of latitude in degree and what total precipitable water vapor in gram per centimeter square. So our aim is to find out more accuracy in this estimation, that is A1 up to A7, the coefficients of Fourier series, this capital A. And how these capital A are related to small a coefficients. Fourier coefficients are calculated from the following expression: capital AI equals to small ai1, ai2x, ai3x square, ai4w, ai5 w square. So that means A depends on X and W. And this capital A depends on small a in this way. So capital A1 to A7 in this way, this is the model. This is A1, then next one is A2 sin t. This is A2, then A3 like this. So these are the different coefficients from small a11 to a75. So main challenging task is the determination of all these coefficients, accurate modeling for determination of these small a coefficients. So after finding out the small a coefficients, you can find out capital A coefficients using this expression. So for that, here in this work, a signal processing technique, that is ensemble Kalman filter based algorithm, is used. So here what happens in this algorithm, this Fxwt can be represented as Hxwt and theta. This is the parametric form, means this is called system structure matrix, and this is the vector of unknown parameter. This vector of unknown parameter is to be updated using ensemble Kalman filter algorithm. Means theta is to be updated using ensemble Kalman filter algorithm. So ensemble Kalman filtering algorithm is a variation of Kalman filter algorithm. Here the main advantage is that here instead of the state vector, what you have to take an ensemble vector. So there is more simplicity in calculation and accuracy as compared to Kalman filter. So we have already applied this ensemble Kalman filter algorithm in this paper. Ensemble Kalman filter for power system harmonics estimation area already applied. So that's it gives actually good result. That's why we're tempted to apply here. Now here what happened? But these are the equations for this ensemble-Kalman filter algorithm. This theta or unknown parameter is updated using ensemble-Kalman filtering. Take the ensemble matrix theta. Theta is the ensemble matrix, means unknown parameter, and data matrix as F. Now ensemble mean and covariance you have to find out in this way. Mean value equals to sum of what are the number of ensemble and this sum. Then this covariance you can find out G transpose by Q minus 1. Then what is G? G equals to that value, means that ensemble value minus its expected value or mean value. In this way you can find out G. And finally you have to update this unknown parameter theta. Theta current instant equal to theta previous instant plus this updation. So this is the error covariance matrix, that is R. So in this way you can find out, you can update this theta value. Theta means that unknown parameter. Here the unknown parameter are these small a coefficients. So using this method or using this algorithm, we have updated this theta parameter. So theta parameter means small a parameter. All these parameters that I have shown earlier, that is A11 to A75. In this way, means these are updated using ensemble-Kalman filter algorithm. After getting this value, you can find out A1 to A7, because I already discussed this AI related with small a coefficient in this way. So now you're able to find out this A11 to A75. So after knowing all this value, you can find out A1 capital A7. So this way you can find out capital A1 to A7. After finding out this capital A1 to A7, you can find out what is the value of KT, clearness index. Clearness index is model equation is this one already discussed. So now knowing this A1, A2 up to A7, you can find out KT value. So after calculation of this KT value, this KT with H0 for at what place you are calculating on which day, that will give, you can find out. If you input this value, you can find out H0. So H0 multiplied with KT will give you this forecasted value of global solar insolation. So this way you can find out what is HTC, means global solar insolation value. If you want to compare this HTC, you can compare with the measured value and you can find out what is the error, how far your model is accurate. This is the total modeling for this one. So the steps, whatever I have discussed, this thing here, steps for ensemble-Kalman filtering algorithm for finding out the daily global solar insolation. Load data set of clearness index KT, give input day of the year, latitude, which location you are finding latitude, and total precipitable water vapor. These are the input. Then you find out H0 using that model. Then for finding out this KT, initialize number of unknown parameter and ensemble, say X or theta. Then model clearness index KT in parameter form, that is H theta form. Then evaluate estimation error. Then mean and covariance, already discussed how to find out mean and covariance. Then obtain estimate of ensemble vector, means all these what are the updation. If final iteration not reached, go to step 6. Otherwise estimate for KT. So after finding out KT, multiply H0, that will give you HTC. That is your determined value or estimated global solar insolation. In this way, you have to estimate global solar insolation. So location from where measured insolation data are considered. These are the different location, 12 location through covering north, south, east, west, middle, all the parts of India. This 12 location, latitude, these are the latitudes. So data collected from all the 12 location. Say these are the data taken from different location, means January n equal to 15 means midday of a month. Data taken. This is the measured value. These are the measured value, and these are the precipitable water vapor content. These data taken for different, means 12 location for throughout the year, means for n equal to 15 means middle of a month. Then this KT updation I have discussed on using ensemble-Kalman filtering algorithm, but I have compared this work with KT updation using recursive least square and only Kalman filtering. So when KT is updated using recursive least square algorithm, then what is HTC, means how much is the forecasted value, These are the forecasted value, these are the measured value. So measured value and forecasted value approaching. So how much approaching, that we'll find out from the curve. Then this is for the Kalman filter. Means before applying ensemble Kalman filter, I have applied only Kalman filter, and these are the different estimated or forecasted value. These are the accurate value for different, say 5 location we have first forecasted. Taken data from 12 location or forecasted for 5 location. This is using ensemble Kalman filtering algorithm, this final one. Now if you compare, means for the 5 cities, these are the results. So say for city I, so this is dotted one is this blue color is the measured, and these are this is red one is the estimated using RLS. This is estimated using Kalman filter, estimated using ensemble Kalman filter. So all these are approaching more accuracy in case of ensemble Kalman filter. That is for city I, one city. Then similarly for city K, another one, city D, another city, city C, city H. Means these are the city. Say 12 city I have taken the data, and for the out of this 12, 5 city I have forecasted or estimated, and this is the accuracy. And for more accuracy, whether our algorithm is accurate for an area where data is not taken. Say city X, where data not included in the model. Model was prepared taking data from other places, not from the city X. And now I am forecasting whether for the city X it is coming, means closely approaching the measured value or not. And it is found that for city X, whose data not included in the model also, it approaching, means estimation using ensemble Kalman filtering, approaching the means more accuracy as compared to means with measured value. So from this work, the conclusion is forecasted value of insolation using ensemble Kalman filtering is more accurate and closely matching with measured value. So this method can be used for any region in the world for solar insolation, because we have tested, we have collected data from different location and tested in also another location, and we will find out that accuracy is there. For getting more accuracy, measured data should be taken covering a large range of latitude, so that you will get more accurate estimate or forecast. So nowadays, with the help of satellite data for certain region can be taken with good accuracy. So if data, means whatever you are inputting is more accurate, then using proposed this ensemble Kalman filtering algorithm, more accurate coefficients, Fourier coefficients can be obtained. So if more accuracy in Fourier coefficients can be obtained, then KT determination is more accurate. So if KT determination is more accurate, then the forecasted value of global solar insolation is also more accurate. So this is regarding the model-based forecasting. Next is regarding forecasting using sky images. Means taking the sky image you have to forecast. That requires image processing knowledge. So here, why you should go for this one? Because forecasting is primarily conducted on numerical weather prediction and satellite cloud observation, but it provides information several days ahead, and there may be error in solar estimate. Means you are estimating for month ahead, 2 months ahead, 6 months ahead, but at that time cloud condition may change, so that means estimation accuracy may hamper. So there is requirement of short-term solar irradiance forecasting. Means some hour ahead, minutes ahead, if you will able to forecast, then it is more fruitful. So for that, image analysis is not required. Image analysis is required, because this model based will give you for several days or months ahead forecasting. So accuracy may be less. So for getting more accuracy, we have to go for image analysis. So for image analysis, analyzing the ground-based sky imager taken by instrument called Total Sky Imager. Total Sky Imager is an instrument to capture the sky image. To capture the sky image and send to a server. And from the server, you take the image, analyze, and from the movement of cloud, you have to find out which part of cloud will cover the sky, and accordingly, how much is your solar insolation or irradiance. So this TSI or total sky imager captures images with high resolution and provide useful information for solar irradiance forecasting, but you to use image processing and artificial intelligence technique for that. Sir, are you there? Panda sir? Or Kaivalya?
Yes, I am here. Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, please tell me.
Okay.
It's
Sir,
going on
slide
fine.
visual and this
Yes, yes, it is
I'm
going on
moving
fine.
faster or speed is okay or I'm moving faster?
A little bit faster because you are discussing particularly very recent topic,
Yes,
and
yes. I
you
know
should.
I am moving faster because I have to cover around
Uh,
70 slides. Now I am
no,
at
no,
31.
no, that is fine, but the topic is very recent research area,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
at least we should get some
Okay, I
idea.
will try to move little bit and
Yeah,
means
slow, slow.
slower.
Make it little bit
Okay.
slow. Okay, thank
Because
you.
this image analysis is again complicated things, so I'll move
Okay,
little bit slower.
yeah.
Okay.
I will take the participants' view also if any.
Yes,
All the
yes.
participants, are you getting is it reaching to you or not? Yes, any of the participant can respond.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
Yes, sir.
okay, fine, fine.
Okay,
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 please
okay,
go ahead.
okay, okay. Thank you. So using this sky image based method for solar irradiance forecasting, basically there are 4 steps. That is pre-process sky image, determine the cloud pixel, forecast movement of cloud, and finally the forecast solar irradiance. So our aim is to get solar irradiance, but before that there are 3 steps. So first one is pre-process sky image. Before coming to that point, so this is the sky imager installed at School of Triple E at NTU Singapore, where I did my poster. This is the 7th floor building. On the top of the building, this sky imager is installed. Here this image, this one is the imager, sky imager, and its view is this one, this is the view. Here basically what happens, this is a hemispherical mirror. So this mirror capture this image, and from this is the image enclosure. The photo can be taken here. The photo of this one means direct sky photo, it will not take direct sky photo. This image of sky will come here, and this one capture the image here, here, and this sent to the server, and from the server we have to take the images. Okay, so and for this shadow band, this is a band, so its image also come, but we have to neglect the shadow band in the analysis. This is the electronic enclosure. This whole setup is installed on the top floor of the 7th floor building at NTU. And 2 sets are there. And this building is a H-shaped building. In the 2 sides of H, 2 sets are there. This is the TSI, that is called Total Sky Imager. It is installed at School of Triple E, NTU Singapore. So coming to first step, pre-process the image. Pre-process, from the name it indicates, you have to process the image. So crop the circular image whatever you'll get from that imager will be in this shape, in this form. Means all the small buildings are in the image, small buildings are there, this shadow band, all these things are there. But you have to remove the poles and building in the image by masking. So that means these things can be cut. So this is the cropped image. So pre-process the image means you have to crop the image. So the syntax is there in the image processing, how to crop image. So using that syntax, you have to crop the image. This is the figure after cropping the image. Then next step is cloud determination. Actually, each image pixel in this analysis divided into 3 categories. One is thin cloud, thick cloud, and clear sky. For more accuracy, you can divide into maybe 5, 6, means in between thin and thick some other category, in between thick and clear sky or some other category maybe. But for here in this analysis we have taken only 3 categories, means thin cloud, thick cloud and clear sky. So red channel and blue channel of each image pixel has been extracted and their respective R by V, red to blue ratio, calculated to classify it into one of the 3 categories. Means for any image pixel, you have to find out what is the R by V ratio, and you have to check whether this pixel will fall in which category, whether thin cloud, thick cloud or clear sky. This R by V ratio has been compared with certain threshold value in order to classify into category. Whatever I told this thing means this R by V ratio will be compared with a threshold value. How to calculate that threshold value, that also we'll discuss. The threshold value can be computed on creating a clear sky library. Clear sky library just like a reference. Just like we are taking reference signal in means a power quality improvement reference signal, we have to compare with send signal. So that means here also same way, you have to take reference as a clear sky library as a reference. With this clear sky library, you have to compare. So basically, image classified into 3 categories: thin, thick, and clear sky. And each image pixel R by V ratio will be calculated and compared, and we have to decide this image pixel will fall into which category. In order to increase the accuracy of cloud determination, a clear sky library has been complied to create different threshold value. Means on a clear day, you have to take all these image pixel that can act as a reference. That is clear sky library, means all the image pixel on a clear day, means no cloud is there, that will act as a reference. For creating the clear sky library, completely clear day within the data set has been chosen. Where no cloud is there, that day you can take as a clear day, and that image pixel you can take as the reference. R by V ratio of every pixel of this image means clear day image, has been calculated and stored in a variable that is called RBR clear sky library. Red to blue ratio, RBR, red to blue ratio clear sky library. So this is the R by V ratio of every pixel of a clear day image. This reference RBR has been used later for comparison to classify the cloud. Means this RBR CSL act as a reference for classifying any pixel, whether that pixel belongs to thin cloud, thick cloud or clear sky. This is a clear sky image. If we go for this R by V ratio calculation, then 0 to 1 this way, and all the image pixel will fall in between. So this is the clear sky library R by V ratio. Means here no cloud is there, clear sky image. Only that shadow band are there, this image. Then how to find out the threshold value? After finding the threshold value, you can compare and find out or determine this pixel belongs to which cloud. So before that, how to find out or how to compute that threshold value? To determine the threshold value for classifying each pixel into thick cloud, thin cloud or clear sky, 2 different sets of training data are collected and compared with R by V ratio of CSL. 2 different sets of training data taken and compared with R by V CSL. In each of the training image, thin cloud, thick cloud has been manually drawn. How to draw and how to calculate that I'll show in the figure. Region of pixel containing clouds has been recorded and R by V ratio of this pixel are extracted. So for any image, if there is thin cloud or thick cloud, page wise you have to find out what is the R by V ratio of thin cloud or R by V ratio of each pixel of thick cloud. You have to make a data set like this. Then these R by V ratio have been compared with R by V ratio of clear sky. This act as a reference, R by V ratio of clear sky, and the difference has been calculated. Means one reference that is will get from R by V ratio of clear sky, and for any image having thin cloud or thick cloud, what is the R by V ratio of thin cloud and thick cloud, that we will find out. Then we have to compare. The difference you have to calculate. Then histogram of thin cloud R by V ratio reference difference and thick cloud R by V ratio difference has been drawn. After finding out difference, a histogram drawn. From the histogram, mean value you have to find out. Based on the histogram, mean value computed, and you have to find out the threshold value for classifying 3 categories. How to find out this thing here? This is a training image. You have to patch the image like this. and this is a thin cloud, then for each image pixel, what is the R by B ratio, that you have to find out. Then for thick cloud, say this is a thick cloud, each image pixel you have to find out R by B ratio. So whatever I discuss this thing flowchart, select a clear sky image, find out RBR clear sky, that act as reference, Then input to close that sky image for training the program, manually find out what is thin cloud, thick cloud pixel, then find out RBR thin, RBR thick difference. And then find out the difference del RBR. RBR thin, red to blue thin, red to blue thick. For each image pixel you have to find out. Then you have to compare with the reference, that will give you del RBR. Then you have to plot the histogram. From the histogram, you have to find out mean value, and that will give you the threshold value KT thin and KT thick. This thing here. This is the histogram of thin cloud R by B ratio difference. And this is the histogram of thick cloud R by B ratio difference. Means for a thin cloud value R by B, and that clear sky value, that difference you have taken for so many pixels. These are the frequency or number of pixels you have taken this axis, and what is the value in this axis. And we will find out that over this region maximum lies. So that means mean of all training data hold becomes 0.1575. Mean you have to take, it will be 0.1575. In this way, you will find out threshold value. Threshold thin, 0.1575. Similar way for thick cloud, we will find out threshold thick, that is lies bit in this region. So this region is accurate value is 0.2115. So this way you can find out threshold thick and threshold thin. Based on this threshold thick and threshold thin, these act as a boundary to categorize whether an image pixel becomes thin cloud, thick cloud, or clear sky. So this is final step, means how to find out the cloud belongs to which category. So find the difference between any pixel RBR and RBR of clear sky. If the difference is less than thin cloud threshold already calculated. If difference is less than that one, then pixel is classified as clear sky. If the difference lies between thin cloud, thick cloud, then pixel is thin cloud. If difference greater than thin cloud threshold, this threshold already calculated, then pixel is thick cloud. Its flowchart is this one. That is, extract R by B ratio of each pixel and calculate this difference. If this difference is greater than threshold thick already calculated, then it is categorized as thick cloud. If this difference, then otherwise it is no, then you check whether it is more than threshold thin. Yes, then it is thin cloud. If it is no also here, then it is clear sky. In this way, we classify an image pixel whether it belongs to thin cloud, thick cloud, or clear sky. In order to display the cloud pixel classification in the different color, we have taken clear sky as a blue color, thin cloud red color, thick cloud purple color, and pixel not required, just like the beams in the image or shadow band, so that you denote as green color. The pixels these are not required for our analysis. So after giving this type of color, the image will be like this. Cloud decision image. This is the initial image we have taken, and after this implementation, this image, and after giving color, the image will come like this. Means these are the green color, means these are not included in an analysis, not required. These are the clear sky, thin cloud, thick cloud, this pink and red color. So now the cloud decision image will come like this. Then next step is you have to find out what is the movement of cloud. Means cloud will move at what rate. If cloud at this time is which position, after half an hour, if the movement of cloud is at this rate, after half an hour it will move to which place, means whether it will cover the sun or not. So depending on that, insolation will vary. That's why cloud movement is an important thing. So cloud movement determination. So for that, two consecutive sky images with 1 minute interval will be fed into the optical flow algorithm to estimate the cloud movement. Means, say this is a image 1 minute before image, this is the current image. So these two images fed to an optical flow algorithm, it will give you the estimate of cloud movement. So these two images will be compared, means it will compare, and the cloud movement, which direction, that will be decided. And this is how to find out this movement, which direction cloud movement. Finally, because so many clouds are there, each cloud will move in different direction. How to find out the average velocity, that is also a difficult task. So to display the cloud movement, total pixel in each sky image is divided into small boxes, 6 by 6 pixels for analysis. Means originally the pixel size is like this, 288 by 288. So for 6 pixel, you can 6 by 6 you can take a box. So that's why this we can divide by 6. So 48 by 48 small boxes. So optical flow algorithm display cloud movement by drawing red arrows in the direction of one of the boxes in the previous image to the corresponding boxes in the current image. Means total pixel 288 by 288 now becomes 48 by 48 big pixel. So if the cloud movement is more, then the red arrows, that drawing red arrows, that red arrow size is big. Red arrows will show finally which direction cloud will move from one of the previous image to the corresponding boxes in the current image. So finally the red arrows will show, the length of the red arrow will show how much, means quantity wise, and the direction will also, it will also show the direction, which direction the final movement is there. Magnitude of red arrows means the velocity of the movement. Now representative velocity vector. Representative velocity vector means in a cloud, so many cloud will move, each cloud will move in one direction, so many direction will come. So finally in which direction it will move, that is called representative velocity vector. So how to do that? Representative velocity vector represent overall cloud movement with the assumption that all cloud will follow the pattern of the representative velocity vector. Each cloud has some movement, but finally what is the net movement, that is the representative velocity. Net velocity in which direction, that is the representative velocity. So for that, small velocity vector with average speed less than 1 pixel, whose average speed is less than 1 pixel, those we have removed in our analysis because they are treated as noise. If you take into account, accuracy of the result may hamper. So in the analysis, the small velocity pixel is generally removed. After removing this, if both Vi and Ui values are less than 1, means velocity in horizontal and vertical both less than 1 pixel, then that means average speed is less than 1 and will be categorized as noise and it will be removed. And after removing noise, you have to find out the net velocity V equals to horizontal velocity square plus vertical velocity square root over, and this also we know theta angle is tan inverse V by. So this way we have to find out what is the net velocity and what is the direction. See, this is the result. See, if you zoom it, this red arrow, so many direction red arrow will come from the cloud. The velocity vector plotted based on optical flow results, so many direction will come, but you have to pinpoint in one direction only, which direction finally or net result, that can be shown by this red arrow, and this is the cross mark. So finally cross mark will move in this direction. This is the representative single velocity vector out of so many velocity vector. If you zoom it, this is so many direction velocity vector, and the final representative velocity vector will this way, you will find out. So the process or the flow chart is like this. You get the cloud movement of every vector from the optical flow algorithm, check all the vector completed. If completed, find out average speed and velocity or direction, that is V and theta you have to find out. But if not, then you check whether that velocity along horizontal less than 1, along vertical less than 1. If yes, then remove this, act as noise. Otherwise, go to fill initially. So this is the flow chart of computing representative velocity vector. That means at this stage we know our cloud will move in this direction from this representative velocity. That is most important. So after knowing cloud movement, then last step is forecasting of solar irradiance. So for forecasting solar irradiance, a clear sky global horizontal insolation GHI, that is GHI CSL value, had to be calculated according to geographical location, time and date of the year. Means where you are finding out, whether you are finding out at Meghalaya or whether you are finding out at Rourkela. So depending on the geographical location, which at what time and which day of the year you are calculating, that you have to give input. Based on that, a clear sky GHI global horizontal insolation value had to be calculated. How to calculate that I'll discuss. So this GHI CSL value with then multiplied by clear sky index KT, this thing we will already discuss in the model based analysis. This global horizontal insolation multiplied with KT clearness index will give you this irradiance. Then value of KT will be determined. In that case, KT determined in different way. Now the KT will be determined other way in this image analysis. So value of KT will be determined based on whether the pixel that cover the sun is consisted of thick cloud or clear sky. If a pixel cover the sun is a thin cloud, then maybe some value of irradiance you will get. If thick cloud, different value. If it is a clear sky, different value. So that's why KT value will determine whether a pixel which cover the sun belongs to which category of cloud, whether thin cloud, thick cloud or clear sky. So after computing the KT value for all the three category, that means you have to find out what is the KT for thin cloud, KT for thick cloud, KT for clear sky. After finding out KT value, the solar irradiance can be forecasted based on the movement of the cloud by determining how the cloud condition will be at the center of the sun by the time of prediction. That means, let you have calculated or determined KT value of thin cloud, this value. So if this portion will come to this, means in front of the sun at this time, then you can find out what is the solar irradiance. That means you have to multiply. Say for example, thin cloud will come to sun at say 1:30 p.m. Then at that time, means at 1:30 p.m. that KT value to multiply is a thin cloud. You have to multiply thin cloud KT value. Then thin cloud KT value with GHI CSL multiplication will give you what is the solar irradiance. So for finding out KT value, you have to take the clear sky model. In that model, this is Ines Chen and Porres model. So this is the model. So here the requirements are theta z. Theta z is zenith angle. What is zenith angle? That we'll discuss. And this altitude is required for A1, A2 determination, and these A1, A2 are required here also, and AM is required. So some inputs are required so that you can find out GHI CSL. What are the input? Altitude, then solar zenith angle, extraterrestrial normal incident irradiance, and optical air mass, link turbidity coefficient. These are required. What are these? Solar zenith angle is the angle between this vertical and the line to sun. Means if sun is some angle to vertical, so sun is here, then vertical, then that angle between vertical to sun, that is the solar zenith angle. Extraterrestrial normal incidence we already discussed without atmospheric effect. Then what is optical air mass? Optical air mass is a measure of length of the path through the atmosphere to sea level traversed by the light rays from the sun. Means how much length it covers from these light rays to reach in the surface, and that it is a measure of the length of the path. But link turbidity coefficient, it is a measure of the atmosphere, means whether atmosphere is good or so many dust are there. So this is a parameter controlling attenuation of solar radiation reaching the earth surface. If attenuation is more, then less amount of insolation will get. So this link turbidity coefficients, optical air mass, this value on this ISC is the solar constant, N is the day number, means January 1, December 31st, 365. So in this way, taking this value for a particular place, for a particular time, you can find out on some particular day, you can find out what is GHICSL, Global Horizontal Insolation on Clear Sky. That you can find out. Then after finding out this one, then flowchart for computing KT. KT is required. Why required? Because you have to multiply the KT value with this GHICSL, Global Horizontal Insolation, to get the irradiance. So how to find out KT? Compare the clear sky image and 1 minute ago image to obtain representative velocity vector. Already discussed how to find out representative velocity vector. Then extrapolate the velocity vector for 5 minutes and pinpoint 3 minutes ago cloud pixel of current sun position with X mark. What is the meaning? Meaning is pinpoint 3 minute ago image. Let now time is say 10:56. Now time is 10:56 am. Then 3 minute ago image is 10:53 am. So in the 10:53 am, you have to extrapolate for 5 minutes. Means 10:53 plus 5. Means you can find out at 10:58 where an X position will come at 10:58. Where is the X position at which pixel? Thin cloud, thick cloud, or what? That is extrapolation. So determine the cloud condition of the X mark, means X whether fall where. If it fall in the thick cloud, then we can say that KT thick equals to irradiance divided by GHICSL. Irradiance this you are doing for KT calculation. After KT calculation, forecasting is there. Irradiance value you can take from this measured data for this KT calculation. If this X mark falls on thin cloud, then this is KT thin, this value. If it falls on clear sky, then you can find out KT clear. In this way, you can find out so many KT values. Then, so this is one of the figure, extrapolation of velocity vector and 3 minute ago cloud image. Means if this is the cross mark, then how it is move in this way. So this is the representative velocity. Now, after finding out so many KT value, just like threshold value you have calculated, so many KT value, here also you have to find out threshold value for KT. So let KT threshold value for clear sky, you'll find out in this way 818.243. Thin cloud you'll find out 395, and for thick cloud this value, and thin cloud this value. So now we have calculated what is KT thin, thick, and clear sky. Then finally, solar irradiance estimation for forecast horizon of 2 minutes. This you can change. If you take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever. Say for 2 minutes you have taken. So compare current sky image and 1 minute ago image to obtain representative velocity factor. Now extrapolate, just like extrapolation discussed for KT calculation. Similar here, you extrapolate for 5 minutes. That means pinpoint and 3 minutes ago and extrapolate 5 minutes. Net becomes 2 minutes ahead. Then you see whether the cloud condition of the X mark position is thick cloud. After extrapolation, let you check or see that X mark falls on a thick cloud. Then you can say that irradiance become KT thick we have already calculated and GHICSL calculated. So irradiance become this. This is the final irradiance calculation. If X mark falls on thin cloud, you can say irradiance equal to KT thin into GHICSL at that time, at that place, on which day that you have calculated. This multiplied with the KT thin will give you irradiance. Similar for clear sky. So this way you have to find out what is the solar irradiance. So this is just an idea how we have taken this one. Solar irradiance estimation in forecast horizon of 2 minutes. Say X mark point will be pinpointed on a 10:53 am sky image. Based on the cloud determination result of 10:53 am, it can be seen that X mark falls in the clear sky pixel. Say you are now at 10:56, current time is at 10:56, you are pinpointing at a 10:53 am image but you are extrapolating for 5 minutes. So that means the X position, whatever fall here, X position fall in the clear sky. That means at 10:58, this clear sky will cover the sun. If clear sky will cover the sun, then the irradiance is more. Then what is that irradiance? So it is predicted that at 10:58 am, clear sky will move to the position of the sun. So GHI CSL calculated will be, then you have to multiply which KT value? You have to multiply KT clear sky value, because clear sky will cover the sun. We have found out this X position. Now what is the predicted irradiance? GHI CSL we have calculated and KT clear we have found out. So this is the predicted irradiance. How much accurate this one? This we may compare with the solar pyranometer data. Say we found out that pyranometer gives 744 watt per meter square and we have calculated 757 watt per meter square. Then the error is predicted value minus real value by real value into 100, that is 1.74% error. So that means this method where it's more accurate and we are getting a error very less, that is 1.74%. So this way you can change horizon also. This is some of the result 30th July 2015 where I have done my this research at NTU. So here say these are the, see the time is 10 am, then 10:1 another, 10:2 another, 10:3 like this. So predicted irradiance 620, but real irradiance is 649. So error calculated 4.4%. Some of the data, what is the error? This is the result. This is result, clear sky, thick cloud, what is the error? In some cases error also more, some cases error less. So average error found out that 10% is the average prediction error. This is the curve, real irradiance, predicted irradiance, found out average error 10%. This is the result for 2 minute and 5 minute forecast horizon. Means 2 minute ahead, 5 minute ahead. You may change this forecast horizon in the coding. So we found out that when forecast horizon increases, error little bit increases, 11%, then 12.5%. These are the results. See, in the analysis, we have found that KT, that is clearness index KT, plays a vital role in the forecasting or estimation of solar irradiance. So if the KT calculation or KT estimation is more accurate, then your irradiance forecasting becomes more accurate. So in order to get more accuracy in KT calculation, I have used that updated using RLS, recursive least square, that is error minimized. Means I have taken, if this is the KT value, this is the error, I want to minimize error, then what is the KT value? I will get updated KT value using recursive least square. So this is the results for sky image analysis plus recursive least square updated, KT value updated using recursive least square, and this is without updating KT value. So find out that error 4%, this is 2.8%. In different cases, error become less, error minimized in RLS updated KT. These are the different results for RLS updated KT. Then this is the plot and found out that average prediction error 11.8% without updating KT value using RLS and 9.3% using RLS updated, recursive least square updated KT value. Now for more accuracy, I've used one algorithm, that is variable leaky least mean square algorithm. This algorithm, before using here, I've already applied in 2012 in the power system frequency estimation, and this is published in IET Science Measurement Technology. So this method I have applied in this forecasting or the KT estimation. This is also same way regressor form of the model F equal to Hx that I have discussed in ensemble Kalman filtering. Same also here, F equal to Hx. F is the solar irradiance, H is the GHI CSL and GHI clear sky, that is CSL. X is the unknown parameter, and here the KT value for different cloud condition. In the ensemble Kalman filter, in the model based estimation, that unknown parameter theta, and theta was basically the Fourier coefficient, that is small a. But here this X unknown parameter is KT, clear sky index KT. So this is the equation updation of X, how you are getting this derivation, all this thing in this paper given, and error is actual value minus estimated value, and this step size is updated like this, and this R means autocorrelation matrix updated like this, and variable leakage factor updated like this equation. So after updating the leakage factor, this R, step size, final updation for X obtained. So in this way, finally X is updated, and what is X? X is the KT value of different cloud condition. So this KT value X finally updated means KT value of different cloud condition updated. And in this case, you have to take some or initial value of X. So what initial value I have taken? I have taken the initial value that I have found out using only image analysis. Some X value we have already discussed, that KT for thin cloud, thick cloud, and clear sky, how much using image analysis, whatever obtained, that taken as initial value of X here. Taking that initial value of X, we have updated that X, and whatever obtained, that will give you the final updated KT values of different cloud condition. So in this implementation, different parameter values are taken like this. So KT obtained using variable leaky least mean square algorithm. So we all of us know least mean square algorithm. This is one of the enhanced version of least mean square, that is variable leaky. Leakage part is updated so that parameter variation become very less here. How updated all this thing, how it is taken into account, this thing are derived all everything here in the variable leaky least mean square paper, and how you are getting this derivation also discussed in that paper. So finally we obtain KT clear sky, this value 826, KT thick cloud 435, and KT thin cloud 591. So after getting this updated value of KT from VLLMS algorithm, I have used this KT value for forecasting. And after using this one, this is the results shown, that is, these results are for sky image analysis only without updating KT value, and this side these results are for sky image analysis and KT is updated using variable leaky least mean square. And we found out that, you may check, this is 568, 569 point something coming, so 3.8 error. So each case how much is the prediction error we found out, because real irradiance is this one. So real irradiance, predicted irradiance, but in the predicted irradiance KT updation is not done. Here the predicted irradiance KT updation is done VLLMS, and each case what are the prediction error, these are the prediction error this side, and this is the prediction error for VLLMS updated KT case. These are the some of the results. Then taking all the results, it is plotted that, and it is found out that still 8.6% error is there. So for improving this error, we may use any other optimization techniques. So up to this I am showing in this presentation. And conclusion is that here successful application of short-term solar irradiance forecasting based sky image based forecasting we discussed. But this sky image based forecasting able to predict the change in solar irradiance and able to so that the system stability can be maintained. Because if you know that after half an hour this much is your solar irradiance, so accordingly this much you will get the solar power. So if this much you will get from solar power, you can switch on, because our requirement is more, our load is more, so you can switch on other generation. If some instant we will get no, our power is more, then you can switch off some generation, you can switch on totally PV like that. So it will give you a more stable in the system, this forecasting. And forecast horizon can be changed. So if you want to change your forecast horizon, means 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, as per your wish, you can change the forecast horizon as per need. But accuracy may be deviated, but you can change your forecast horizon. So forecast based on the sky image captured by TSI, total sky image, can be extended based on the image captured by other equipment. Means if you capture image from other equipment, that another equipment name is say Varsis image, just like TSI. So if you get image from that also and use this type of analysis, and these are also applicable for those images. Then after knowing the irradiances, by switching on and off of the backup storage beforehand, means if you know this much irradiance, this much power, then switching on or off your backup, whether battery or other generation, so you can switch on or off the backup storage beforehand depending on the forecasted value. The solar intermittency issues can be solved and damage to the system can be avoided. These are the main advantages. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rai. It is a really, what I can say, very depth research and recent research you are doing, and active researcher also. And you have delivered a very recent topic, and I hope all the participants may take the interest in this particular area, because publication will become more easy. Publication will become more easy, I hope, if someone will work on this. But the data, all those things, little bit, it is a complex issue. But
because
he has delivered very nicely, and thank you. Thank you for your contribution in this particular area. And we'll have, we may take one or two questions if required. If anybody has given the question, the Kavalya will tell us. Kavalya?
Okay. Okay.
Sir, there are no questions in the chat box till now.
Okay. Then the participants, so if you have any participants, if you have any kind of question, you can put up. Otherwise, you can communicate to our Dr. Rai. He is always available, and if you can find his research publications is in only in IEEE and very standard journals. He is having the collaboration with the MNC project, research project collaboration in abroad also, and he is a very active researcher. But I know, because personally I know him, and he has delivered a good topic here. Thank you, Dr. Rai.
Thank you.
We can conclude now, and we'll ask the participants to attend again in the next session at 3 o'clock. Thank you all the participants, and thank you, Dr. Rai.
Thank you, Professor Panda.